Hi, and thanks for joining me for a brief discussion about the Microsoft Azure platform. My name is Brent Wodka, and I work for Applied Information Sciences based in Reston, Virginia. We're a Microsoft Gold partner and have been since 1994. And here at AIS, we're as excited about Azure as we've ever been about a strategy and offering from Microsoft. So this will be the first in a series of short discussions around the cloud and our take on the Microsoft Azure platform. Today we'll focus more on describing Azure itself, what it hopes to accomplish, the types of services offered, and the compliance programs available to customers who implement their solutions on top of the Azure platform. Future discussions and presentations will focus with more detail on the approach to security and privacy in Azure, exclusive offerings to U.S. government customers, and example implementations on the platform. Azure is Microsoft's public cloud computing platform. So it offers computing services, which we'll describe in a bit more detail here in a minute, on demand to customers hosted in one of 17 different global regions. This means that the physical data centers are actually in these 17 different global regions, but customers can utilize any of the regional locations from almost anywhere in the world. 141 different countries with support for 10 languages and 19 currencies for paying for the service. The high-level approach for the Azure platform is two types of computing services: infrastructure as a service, otherwise known as IaaS, and platform as a service, otherwise known as PaaS. And for Microsoft, it's critically important that services offered in these two categories operate as a unified whole, meaning that they integrate well and actually complement one another. The other critically important element of the platform is that these services can be accessed not only through a web user interface, known as the Azure portal, but through a range of APIs, including what you would expect to see traditionally from Microsoft, including PowerShell, .NET, and REST, and a large number of additional platform APIs, including Python, Java, Node, Ruby, PHP, and others. And now let's talk a little bit more about IaaS and PaaS. IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service, is a standardized, highly automated offering where compute, meaning servers or client computers, storage, and networking capabilities are owned by Microsoft and offered on demand to its customers. These services are scalable, meaning that you can design and build apps using these infrastructure services ranging from small, one-off implementations to apps that need to connect globally with millions of users. In addition, these services are also elastic in nature. So if scalable means that you can plan ahead for expected demand and design the system to meet this demand, elasticity gives you a way to optimize this design to maximize for efficiency and cost. For example, if you know that your web app will need to handle a lot more traffic during the last month of your fiscal year, you could spin up additional web servers to meet this temporary demand, and then turn them off when the spike is over. So you maximize your efficiency in terms of cost, but are still able to meet those peak demand scenarios. IaaS services in Azure are metered by use, meaning that you're charged for what you consume, and compute resources are charged in increments down to the minute. So if you have a set of servers that is costing you about $1 to run for the hour for the set, 5.5 hours is going to cost you $5.50. IaaS services are not unique in this sense. Platform also offers this model. It's just important to point out how the customers charge, and there's minute-level granularity and not, say, rolled up into the hour or the day. Different machine types ranging from basic one-core machines up to very high-performing instances are available, and prices correspond appropriately. And as we said before, the portal and various APIs provide self-service access to the Azure IaaS services. When you think of IaaS, think servers, disks, and networks. Another interesting perspective or take on infrastructure service is essentially the data center offered to developers as an API. Platform services in this context, meaning the Microsoft Azure platform, are middleware capabilities that enable runtime deployment, management, and maintenance of business applications. In this model, capabilities are provided as a service while encapsulating and hiding the underlying infrastructure. So, for example, you can deploy and host a website by providing the service your HTML and JavaScript files, but not have to worry about the location of these files on the web server, maintaining a virtual directory, or many of the other traditional tasks associated with running a web server. The concepts of scalability and elasticity apply for platform services as well, and in many cases, scalable design and automatic elasticity are provided by simply using the service. These platform services have actually been built from the ground up with these concepts in mind. It isn't always the case that you get automatic elasticity, and in some cases, the Azure Platform Service will require explicit management for elastic capacity, but more and more we see Microsoft managing this for us. An example of this is the Azure cloud-based identity management solution known as Azure Active Directory. If you leverage this service as a part of your app, you wouldn't need to worry about the design of your identity management solution for capacity, or the fact that you might have many more logins and activity during the last month of your fiscal year. The platform service handles this worry for you. So when you think about platform services or platform as a service, think SQL databases, identity management, messaging, or web server functionality, all as hosted services available to your apps. Ultimately, the long-term vision is to provide a full range of .NET application infrastructure capabilities as services, and we see more and more platform services added every day. And what we see here is a high-level listing of the types of services that are available in Azure. So within each of these categories, you'll have specific offerings, but these represent the main categories. And if you look at the first three bullets, virtual machines, networking, and storage, those are really associated with infrastructure as a service, with storage sort of bleeding into the platform as a service, and some would argue networking as well, but they're traditionally thought of as infrastructure as a service offerings. And the rest are platform as a service offerings. So as we talked about before, websites hosted in Azure where you don't have to manage the web server. Identity management for hosted identity management as well. So again, these are the high-level services that are available, and within Azure there are actually multiple offerings within each of these categories. Future sessions will go through demos and more hands-on around each of the individual areas and the specific service implementations. And this is a listing of the areas of compliance which Azure implements. And depending on what industry you're operating in and what type of business you're writing your applications for, obviously one or more of these may be more relevant to you. For the federal government, we usually see that the FedRAMP compliance area is very important. But this is the listing as of today. And you can always get more information from the Azure Trust Center, which is shown, the URL shown here on the screen. You can also get information about security and privacy implementation as well on the Azure platform. But the Trust Center is the place to go for details around compliance implementation. So to wrap up the discussion today, I want to leave you with this thought. What you see here are the Gartner Magic Quadrants for competition in the areas of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service cloud vendors. And the infrastructure as a service version is current as of May 2014 and platform as of January 2014. And what you see here is various competitors in each area, but you see Microsoft as a market leader in both IaaS and PaaS offerings. And we think this makes Azure unique. As we said, this is part of their strategy, having infrastructure and platform services integrate really well together and actually complement each other. And we look forward to the potential of this approach. So once again, thank you for spending a little bit of time talking about Azure, and look for coming discussions around Azure Government and individual implementations on the Azure platform.